Moving on, our next session, as Debjani said, is a fireside chat on the topic Road to Recovery, Building a Scalable Application on Cloud. For this, I would like to invite Dr. RS Sharma, CEO, National Health Authority, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Dr. Sharma was the first Director General of the Unique Identification Authority of India and was subsequently appointed as the Chairman of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. He currently serves as the CEO of NHAI. Hosting the chat is Rahul Sharma, President AWS India and South Asia, Amazon Internet Services AWS, a strategist, business and change leader, design thinker, cloud enthusiast and tech evangelist. Rahul is the president for AWS for India and South Asia. He's also an elected member of the NASSCOM Executive Council. Rahul has almost 25 years of experience of successfully running technology and consulting businesses across India and the Asia-Pacific region. Pleasure to have both of you here with us. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you so much, Justin, for the introduction, and it's a real privilege for me to be speaking today with Dr. RS Sharma, who's a stalwart of the industry. Sir, it's a real privilege and a pleasure. You've been at the forefront of Digital India, creating the crown jewels of Digital India, which have been these massively scalable platforms that have been created, whether it's Aadhaar or UPI. And you've been actually let's just get started on this. I'm really excited to speak about this. You've been at the forefront of building these digital public goods for population scale. And how has that experience been brought forth in building CoWIN, which truly been a massive population scale application and platform that has been deployed?
Well, thank you, Rahul, and let me also thank nasscom for organizing this fireside chat. nasscom has been at the forefront of leading the software services revolution in this country, and I think they have contributed hugely to the thought leadership in this sector. Well, for me, I have also been a traveler of this path since quite some time now. And I think the experience of building the digital artifacts like Aadhaar and UPI and other things, of course, I'm not saying that I'm the one who built them, but I certainly have been a part in their building process. And those experiences have been extremely valuable for us because we realize that for India, for a country like India, whenever you build something, you have to build for a billion plus. That's number one. Number two, it is very important that when you build, the software has to have a certain kind of attributes. These attributes are: one, it should be scalable; two, it should be with the speed. You can't build for a billion plus at a speed of 1 million per year because you will never finish it. So scale and speed are of essence. Secondly, it also has to be frugal from the construction point of view. You can't spend billions and trillions of dollars building this software. Similarly, it also has to be frugal from the perspective of people who are going to use it. You can't make a costly kind of software offering. So that's another part. So frugal from both the government point of view and from the people's point of view. It also has to be interoperable because interoperability and based on standards, based on open APIs, these are some other attributes which actually make the products scalable and which can go up the population scale. Similarly, it also has to be robust, reliable. Those are some of the things which we need. Fortunately, in India, we have built many such artifacts. And also let us realize that India now has a connectivity infrastructure which is ubiquitous, which is again quite robust, which is also very frugal in the sense that people are today able to purchase data at the rate of, really very cheap rate of 8 to 10 rupees per gigabyte. And India is using data at the rate of 12 gigabytes per capita per month, per person per month. Similarly, so therefore the overall networks which India has, the mobile networks are transporting more data than the corresponding mobile networks of US and China put together. So basically you have an ubiquitous connectivity. We have the experience of building software structures for a population scale, which are interoperable, which are frugal, which are robust, which are reliable. And that experience has helped us in building CoWIN, because again, the same attributes have got to be a part of this structure. Interoperability, building on open APIs, building on open standards, and again, building on open source. That's also very interesting because, we have built the entire stack on open source. So that's another part. So I think these experiences have helped. And today, I think India as a country has got maturity into building such population scale platforms in no time. Imagine the CoWIN, actually the work on CoWIN began somewhere in the month of January itself. And on 16th January, the Honorable Prime Minister launched that CoWIN platform and the vaccination program. And today we have more than 500 million people on CoWIN platform. That's again an achievement. I don't think any platform has grown so fast in such a short time. It has been merely 6 months since the start of the Prime Minister's launch of the vaccination program. So I think these are some of the things which we have used, and I think we will continue to leverage and use such experiences in future too.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. I think India has shown the way to the world on how a national digital ecosystem has to be created. And you mentioned that it was built very quickly, it was built very frugally, it needed to be robust, reliable, interoperable, open. And these are some of the inherent qualities that cloud brings. But I'd love to hear your perspective about how building this on cloud gave a different kind of what kind of experience it gave, and what was the key sort of tenets around building this on cloud, your learnings and experiences, if you would love to share.
No, again, thank you very much. This is also a very relevant question because, in older times when we were building software, we also had to think of, where will I store the data? Where will I, sort of have the infrastructure for storage of the software data, communication infrastructure, which is the bandwidth of the data center where I put in the data center or the computer centers where I put in these software. So I think that's one part which is now taken away in the sense that there is one less problem to sort of grapple with. So one can focus on building the software and building the system. So that's one very important component. Secondly, also softwares like CoWIN, software like Aadhaar. Of course, Aadhaar is a different breed altogether because that's built on our own cloud, on our own software cloud, which UIDAI has built, Government of India has built. But that's for the reason because Aadhaar contains the citizens' data, which is extremely sensitive. So that's one part. But otherwise, you see, thinking of peak demand is also very important because you can't have flexibility in catering to the requirements of the customers, which are so fluctuating. So that's one thing which is very important, and that again cannot be done unless you have a flexible infrastructure at the back end. Thirdly, let's understand the scale. When we opened CoWIN, when the Government of India opened vaccination for 18 years plus, and we opened the platform for registration of the people on 28th of April at 4 p.m. And Rahul, you'll be surprised to know we actually registered as much as 13.7 million people in a matter of 8 hours till 12 in the midnight of 28th of April. Now that's a huge number. And secondly, we also, you'll be surprised to know we were hitting at the rate of 55,000 concurrent transactions per second. And we were hitting something like billions of hits on that day. So you can't, and we had actually scaled up our application. We have measured that to 45,000 transactions per second, 45,000 concurrent hits per second. Now this is again something which was not possible if you had a physical sort of a dedicated data center at the back end. So I think cloud has made it possible today to cater to such peak demands and fluctuation in these demands. Last, cloud takes care of many of the security aspects of the program. because while one has to build security, and obviously one should figure out and one should do a security checking through one competent agencies, but there are many areas where this kind of thing can be done and can be configured at the level of the cloud. So that's another very important part, and I think that helped us. You remember there was a talk that some people were doing a scripted kind of appointments, and there was some talk that some data was available. 150 million Indians data is available for sale on the dark web, etc. And we were very confident because nothing doing. Our cloud service provider told us that, look, no data has been downloaded at this scale. The data cannot go out. So I think that's again a very, very important positive part of the story. So therefore, I think having a cloud at the back end has certainly helped CoWIN, mitigate many of these problems, take care of many of the issues relating to scalability, peak demands, fluctuations in demand, spikes in demand. So that has been a great, sort of positive. And I must say that our cloud providers have been extremely, extremely supportive of us in this particular venture.
I think it's so important. My own experience of going to the vaccination was so seamless. And I think the wonder that I have really, and this is the magnitude of what has been achieved, is the combination of the physical world and the digital world and how that came together. Because if it is so easy for the physical world to go out of sync with the digital world if the platform is not performing, and especially in the rural areas of India, and in the areas where there's so many people coming in all together. I think that also stood the test of scalability and robustness. And that must have been a very, very interesting challenge. This combination of the physical world and the physical processes. I think that's the magnitude of what's been achieved with these more than 500 million registrations and vaccinations. It's been really, really heartening to see how well this entire engine has come together, and it's truly something that I'm really proud of. But any insight on the matching, the bringing together of this physical world and the digital world?
No, absolutely. I think that's also an extremely important question, because one should realize that India is an extremely diverse country.
Correct.
While we have places which have huge connectivity, there's no problem about connectivity, for example, in Delhi and other places. There are many places still in India where the connectivity may not be there, or where, people may not be using, what is called due to digital divide. People may not be able to use these devices to make the registrations, etc. So there are a lot of challenges, and therefore, if you build a system and if you restrict your system only to those which are digitally literate or digitally empowered, then you are creating an exclusion and a digital divide, and you are accentuating already a digital divide which exists. So therefore, digital inclusion. I mean, one of the attributes which I forgot to mention in any project of India, in any digital project of India, is inclusion. And inclusion means that everybody should be able to join. And you must provide, multiple pathways to get included in the system. It can range from completely physical to completely digital. And that's what we call phygital nowadays. There's a new word which has been coined for that. So therefore, let me explain to you that this whole issue of exclusion because of digital divide, etc., how that was addressed. Since the word go, we realized that everybody may not be able to register on the platform. So registration is one part. So registration is not mandatory. So basically, there are 4 points, 4 software or applications, you may say, this platform has. One is the registration of your application, registration to get the vaccination done. Then second stage is essentially to book your appointment through some hospital. These are first citizen-facing aspects of CoWIN. The second aspect is when you go for vaccination, then the vaccinator first checks whether you are registered or not. If you are not registered, he registers you at then and there, and then vaccinates you. And basically that's the second stage. And there is a vaccinator software which actually caters to verification of identity and then recording the event of vaccination And lastly, recording whether you have any after effects of the or adverse impact after vaccination. That's the second part. Third part is that the facilities which are providing the vaccination, they have to come onto this platform. So they have to publish their timetable. And that's the third part. So they publish the timetable, and that's how you come to know as to where, what vaccine at what price is being administered and what is the time schedule, etc. The fourth is actually immediately after vaccination, you can download the certificate, which is basically digitally verifiable certificate. These are the four parts. So the first part, which is registration, and the fourth part, which is the certificate, these are the citizen facing part. The second and third part, which is the vaccination and the publication of the vacancies, etc., is basically a part where vaccinators are involved or the private facilities or public facilities are involved. That's the way it operates. We decided that the process can be either end-to-end digital, which means registration to the certificate download, or it can be from the citizen first part. Citizen need not register also. They can straight away come down to the center and get vaccinated. So the digital journey begins from there itself. It doesn't mean that citizens who come to the vaccination center, they are not actually recorded or accounted for. No, they are accounted for because their vaccination is recorded on the platform. So therefore, we had actually ensured inclusion, and inclusion was ensured by various methods. One is you need not register, you can just what is called walk-in. And for your information, Rahul, we have done about 70% of the vaccinations have been done through walk-ins. So those people who are talking about digital, what is called exclusion is really not true. Number one. Number two, we made this CoWIN platform in 12 languages. So it virtually covers 90+% of India's population. These 12 languages are spoken by that number of. So basically, most of the major languages are covered. Then secondly, we made the process of registration and scheduling of appointment and finding out of vacancies. Also, they can do it through the Common Service Center or through the NHA's call center, which means that you have an assisted mode of registration.
Correct.
So that's another part. So I think multiple steps have been taken in order to ensure that we are able to truly make this whole process inclusive.
And it's one of the really, I mean, you talked about the platform being modular, and it's really, a part of it was citizen facing, a part of it was focused on vaccinators, but also it was built in a very open manner. The APIs that were used, for example, food delivery, I've seen that they can just pull in an API and show that they've been vaccinated. You can pull the digital certificate now on your phone with just a text message and things like that. I think you initially also talked about that, the importance of open systems and open source. How has, cloud helped in really creating this open view and getting the entire ecosystem involved?
No, I think that's also very important because, as I said in the beginning, some of the attributes of good scalable digital systems should be its scalability and its openness. And I think we should realize that we don't have to build monolithic systems. So for your information, even these four components are glued together, not like a monolithic, 4 modules of a software. They are modules, but they are connected together through APIs. So even internally also, we have structured the software in such a manner that each module, each component talks to the other components through APIs. So that's one part. And secondly, let me also explain to you that APIs was not an afterthought. Some people might think that, there was a hue and cry saying that, this should be opened up, and then we were forced to open up. It's not like that. Since the day one, actually, we were clear that this is a software which is going to be used, number one. And it will not only be used for vaccination, it will also be used by various systems to provide the certificates to their employees, to check whether their employees have been vaccinated or not. The airlines will check whether there is a vaccination certificate or not. So therefore, we have to create a very easy way of figuring it out as to whether the person has been vaccinated or not. So I think the open APIs was actually not an afterthought. It was built in there. And only at an appropriate time, we opened it up for, various kinds of agencies for getting the what is called the the appointments and registrations, etc., because they have more reach. So Paytm, Infosys, Max, other kinds of entities, they got into that, and their customers were able to book. Similarly, of course, Arogya Setu is doing that. Arogya Setu was our initial partner, which has been going on, and they also have a very high reach of 200 million approximately downloads. So those things were there. And what is now is going to happen is we are now building 2 or 3 new APIs, which actually will enable people. For example, if I am the employee of a certain firm, I register on my portal, and that portal will be able to fetch the information about my vaccination status from CoWIN.
Yes.
And they will be able to make, if they want to make some kind of ID cards, or they want to embed that information. Airlines, for example, will be able to fetch the vaccination status of the passenger directly from the CoWIN. So therefore, that's a beautiful innovations which can be built. And please understand, Aadhaar also has been built in such a manner that it's a minimalistic stuff which we built, and thereafter the rest is left for the ecosystem to innovate.
Correct.
And that's the model which we have adopted in almost all the system. National Digital Health Mission is the latest platform which we are making. Our agency, the National Health Authority, is making, and we are ensuring that this platform is again open, interoperable, based on APIs. This is the broad model, and that is how. And we must say that unless people are able to innovate on top of it,
correct,
then this software is not really something which doesn't survive. Software must be thought of as a living organism in some sense, a living, not like a virus organism, but like a living stuff, which should actually continue to develop and continue to, and that innovation must happen on the fringes, on the outside, and that can continue to happen. And I'm sure on CoWIN also this will continue to happen. It will also actually, in some sense, accelerate the naysayers. Maybe today also we may have some hesitant people. They will realize that if people are checking on their vaccination status, and then it's good for them. Otherwise also that is good for them, not because others are checking. But I think our Prime Minister has been saying this. Everybody has been saying this. Those doctors, all kinds of people have been saying that it's necessary. Vaccination is the most effective way of controlling this virus. And
absolutely, sir. This has been it's a showcase, a global showcase for how digital world comes together at scale. So it's really an honor to have spend this time with you, and always a pleasure listening to you, sir. I'd once again like to thank you so much for this honor, and whatever that we've delivered for Digital India. It's been a privilege to see. And thanks to NASSCOM as well for organizing this. It's been a real privilege and pleasure to be associated with this. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rahul, for this conversation. I think it will be good to listen to other experts on this event, so that I also get something to learn from this. It has been a wonderful experience. It has been wonderful talking to you. And I also want to thank NASSCOM for organizing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Rahul and Dr. RS Sharma, for that very informative and interactive session.